Ignacio,
How
can
you
you hear
doing?
me?
Yes, how you doing? We are live.
Oh, here we are. We are live. Love it.
We are live, my friend. I just went in live on YouTube. Yeah, on YouTube. So we are good to go. We're just gonna wait on people and on we go.
Let's let me do a couple of things first. 1 second.
Yeah, we got time. I mean, I'll be in the
Have,
background.
have we got people have we got people signing in, or is it, are you holding them?
Nope, we got 19 people in already.
How many?
19.
Oh, nice, nice. I just trying to get this PowerPoint working. Damien sent it to me, and um,
Look at the pictures I took. I'm on the phone. Give me a second. Iggy, I'm on my phone, okay?
I
Because
see you,
I
hon.
have
Good.
yeah, I can hear you guys just fine.
Yep, I see you too. All good.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I'm here with the little one. If you can't get the PowerPoint to work, you can email it to Iggy or put it on Box, right, Iggy? And you
Yep.
can pull it up that way. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
to be honest, I actually think what's happened is my PowerPoint's expired, so I can't get the
Oh,
presentation.
shoot.
It's fine. I can get it. I just can't activate the slideshow.
Going over
That,
participants, welcome.
that doesn't happen often.
We'll be starting shortly.
Hi. Okay, we're ready to go. Hi.
And
Uh,
Vic, I can give you my login later, and you can just download it from the app. Okay.
I still have slides. It's fine. We are coming live from the Miami workroom right now. Damien sends his apologies. He's actually the one that designed this talk, but he's currently in the trauma center dealing with a trauma. So naturally, here I am instead, filling in for him. But you'll note that a lot of the presentation will be based on him. This guys is really informal, so and really welcome anyone that's listening to either ask questions. I don't know if we can go audio, maybe we can, maybe we can't, but use the Q&A thing. It's not a super long one, and but rather, to be honest, it's just what Damien and I both really think we would do. Now, let me see if I can start sharing my slides here. Oh, I can do it. Nice. Okay, excellent. Iggy, I'm going to start sharing my slide, sharing my screen.
Go for it.
Okay, let me, where's that button? Oh, I have not done this in a while. Iggy, how do I share my screen?
Yes.
Go to the center of the bottom where it says share screen in
I feel like
green.
one of the,
Are you in box? Are you in box right now? There you are. Go to the like you're gonna go to the PowerPoint. There you go. That's it. We see the screen. You're ready to go.
Okay, fantastic. Well, thank you everyone for joining us for this session. Like I said, Damien sends his apologies. This talk has been designed primarily by him, actually. But like I said, he's down in Ryder now dealing with the trauma. So I'm just filling in. Sumed's also around, but again, he's running around right now. So it'll just be me. These guys will join in when they can. But ultimately, the topic of this talk is the home stretch. It'd be interesting to know, like those people that are online, where they are in their application process and what they want to do with respect to who they're contacting with their list and their rank list. And for those people that are not applying this year, maybe it gives you another insight into what to look forward to and perhaps also what to think about moving forward. Like I said, it's not very formal. This is not going to go for an hour, but rather it's just going to go long enough for us to really come across what we think when it comes to going ahead with this procedure. So for those people that are obviously within the system, this part is almost just as important as applying for the residency. There's a lot of things to consider. You interviewer programs, and for those people not familiar with the system, you apply, you interview, and then what do? You rank. And so there are multiple questions to ask: which programs to contact, who to contact, when to contact, what to say, and how effectively you communicate your intentions. These are all very, very important things. I believe all the interviews for this season are over. So at this point, it really now comes down to exactly that, what exactly we can do. And we have this open chat thing here, and we'll be able to answer them as we go. So if anyone out there is interested in like how Damien and I went about contacting programs, I can at least share with you a little bit about my experience. I definitely expressed interest after interviews with programs that I liked, specifically the program director, chair, and possibly some of the faculty members that you have a connection with, which is always nice. I think it's polite, courteous, and many people see it differently after the interview, whether or not you send a thank you email. I definitely remember one program director saying that she doesn't really care about thank you emails because everyone sends them and it doesn't really impact anything. One thing that I did do is I personally kept in touch by email with particular programs, letting them know how it's going, where I was thinking, and ultimately, guys, there's no harm in doing it. That's my thought anyway. I know rank lists are due in a couple of weeks, but exactly to contact at this point in the frequency is a little bit different now, but nonetheless, there's still some benefit to talking to people at the faculty. And in addition, residents as well. I think resident communication is also important because it also gives you a sense of what residents are in the programs, and if you'll fit in, especially this year, given that a lot of you weren't able to visit. And so sending emails, calling, posting, many ways to keep in touch. I don't know if you guys have any thoughts or want to share any experiences, go ahead. Definitely can assist in maybe suggesting things. The question of what to say, however, is an interesting question because at some points in time, at the very beginning, say November, you could say that you're interested. But I think as we get closer to the rank list submission, what to say is even more important. But a lot of people are listening to are we ranked high? Are we ranked number one? I think that those are the key things to say in this regard. And so at this point, I mean, you guys are still finalizing your lists for everyone, but once if you give it a little bit of time, it's probably the best way to go about doing it is to actually tell someone where you actually think they are. Because honestly, they're doing the same game. Their programs are wondering just as much as you're wondering about each other. And so doing this at least gives them some confidence as to where they want to rank you. And so I think it's very important. I definitely believe it. And I know many programs believe in that too, but not everyone. So you take that with a grain of salt. And how effectively you communicate your intentions as well. I think a lot of programs, I've spoken to a couple when I was applying, said telling a program you're ranking them high only means so much, because my definition of high might be top 3, whereas your definition of high might be top 10. And so everyone is a skeptic in this game as well. So just saying high alone isn't really indicative. I don't think. And to go a little bit further, I think I would say, and I know Damien would say the same thing, how effectively you communicate doesn't necessarily impact how you feel about a program, but it can definitely impact how a program feels like you perceive them. And especially towards this end of the game, how that impacts you can definitely, I think for some programs, impact where you stand in their rank list and ultimately if you can match. So I think it's very important to do. And again, if you guys have any other questions or any anecdotes to share, I'd love to share them with you as well, because those are mine. But in the meantime, we'll go on to the next thing. Damien himself, a very academic guy, has an example of his CV updates. And I can say I did the same thing when I was playing this game too, is that one thing to keep in touch, whether or not you want to tell a program how they rank. Another thing you can do is share with them updates. Updates of what you've achieved. Damien here has got a great example of updating his publication lists, his presentations, his accolades, and it gives you another reason: 1, to stay in touch with the program; 2, let them know that you're thinking of them; and 3, show them what you're doing. Because as you can see here, Damien did multiple things in between starting the interview trail and finishing, and being able to show this type is actually, in my mind, a great excuse to get in touch with someone and then continue showing the program, 1, your interest, but 2, your productivity. Because it's one thing just to pass on the message and say that you're interested, and it's another thing to say I'm interested and I do this. I think that's a really great example. I think you guys have maybe 2 weeks to really finalize lists, so there's definitely no harm when you apply and you want to contact programs about sending out CV updates. I myself did it, Damien did it, I know Sumit did it as well. So many examples of how to do that, and by all means. And for those people that aren't necessarily playing in the interview season, sending CV updates to people or programs, there's no harm in it. Until they start charging for emails, there's no harm in sending an email out there. So I definitely think it's worth considering when you think about what to send out to people. Moving back onto rank lists, there are two ways. There are two ways to really think about rank lists. One, it's your rank list, and two, it's the program's rank list. And we can start off by saying straight away that the program's rank list is out of your control. So there really is no benefit whatsoever to thinking about how the program is ranking you. You've got to focus on your own rank list and where you want to be. And I'm sure Dr. Brusco will add in when he has the opportunity. But
hey everyone,
it's very
I'm
important.
here. It's
Unlike Dr. Brusco,
so my person in spirit just running around on call. Sorry.
Oh yeah.
Damon,
What were you talking about, Victor, specifically?
we're talking about not being late like you are to this presentation.
No problem. Thanks.
Oh yeah, exactly. So I mean, it seems obvious, but so the rank list process is a little weird in terms of like the actual submission. You want to make sure you have everything lined up, that the programs are selected appropriately. So I would do it ahead of time if you can, a week ahead of time, 2 weeks ahead of time, whatever. And then at least they're in there in case some crazy thing happens. You're, saved from potentially being late. At least you have something in there, on time. And then that way you can kind of like set it in there and then forget about it and don't have to worry about it on the last day of submitting.
And then so always just trying to state the obvious, rank lists important and rank based on your preferences. I know that's a thing. You could spend a good 5 to 10 minutes even just talking about what makes a preference. I've told this to a couple of people, and I'd love to say it again, that not only a lot of programs will sell you, and I'm sure places I've been to are guilty of it, will sell you on a place where they will tell you, we do this, we do that, we do this the most, we do that the most, we have this, we have that superlative, which is all fine and great. But the other part of when ranking based on your preferences, where do you think not only will you be a good surgeon, but a good person? Because there are so many programs where you'll learn how to close, you'll learn how to open, you'll learn how to do these lumbar drains, cranies, decompressive hemicranies. You'll learn a lot of, everywhere can give you the bread and butter neurosurgery, but when you pick a program to spend 7 years of your life, part of it has to be where you think.
Yeah, exactly. And also, I think it's important to, and like the third bullet point that I wrote there is, I said rank based on your preferences, not the programs or not where you think the program's going to rank you. Strategy really works. And I think it's of utmost importance, especially with this type of decision, to be honest with yourself about your values, what you're trying to get out of your residency/career, which can be hard to fully comprehend, at this stage of the game. But, it's something that chances are you've gotten this far, you've thought about what the next 5, 10, 15 years are going to look like. And chances are you got asked that on an interview at least once or twice already as well. So, it's important to be honest with yourself in terms of what are you really looking for, and not, which program rank process to go or you want to end up. And unfortunately, it's nerve-wracking, but at the end of the day, it's not fully in your control. And I think for me, that was certainly the most difficult part, was that we spend so much time interviewing and you're running around, trying to, or driving yourself crazy trying to figure out your rank list. And at the end of the day, you don't really, really know where you're going to end up. And so it's tough for those of us that are, going to be neurosurgeons and like to be in control of everything, that this is kind of one of the big decisions that ultimately isn't in your control. And therefore, I think that's why making it your preferences will give you the best chance at ending up where you want to end up.
And, where you want to end up is a very personal decision. One plug for Miami is that it's like 78 degrees right now in February. If you like that type of place to end up, I mean, that has to be part of your calculus. But being true to yourself, honest to yourself, and thinking you're a very privileged position to apply for neurosurgery that not everyone gets to do, it is a blessing in itself. But being honest with yourself, where you think you can be the best person as well, I think is very important. Where you think you could be happy if you live in a place for 7 years. I bet for a lot of us, we haven't been in the same city for 7 years since elementary school, middle school. So it's a long time in neurosurgery. So taking the time to really base on your preferences and not what people tell you, not what you've heard, but just being based and honest with yourself, I think is completely how you should play it. Because as Damien says, it's kind of out of your control beyond a certain point of a list. I think people have told me, and I think back to how I did it, like at some point beyond a certain number on your rank list, it's all nebulous. My favorite story is someone ranked one place above another simply because they had better food on interview day. It gets to that point. And so like trying to like consume yourself with teasing out those like little differences, I don't think is worth it either, Damien, right?
I agree. There's only so much you can do, and driving yourself crazy over these small details is, I think does more harm than good. I think you guys are in a more difficult position this year, just not having visited all the places. So it's a little bit harder to get a gut feeling sense of the program, which is, kind of typically how we would say, you kind of, when or I really like, mesh with those residents, I didn't really like that program as much. So, it becomes a little more difficult this year, but I think kind of nitpicking over, the cafeteria food wasn't as good at this place. Like that ultimately is probably not going to matter as much in the grand scheme of things. And so to some people that may actually matter. And so that it goes back to based on your preferences. Everybody's a little bit different. Everybody's looking to get something different out of it. And every program has something a little bit different to offer on the whole. So,
you probably can't see this on your phone, but someone has asked, what are certain intangibles that you found were important to consider when ranking programs?
It's a good question. I think as a general rule, pretty much at every place that neurosurgery is offered, you're going to get good training. You're going to learn how to operate. Some programs have more spine surgery than others. Some places are better at vascular. Some places are better at endovascular. And so taking that into consideration is important. Or maybe you want to be at a place that has a very well-rounded program. They have a big name attendings in every field, for the most part. So it's more, I think for me, that's what I was looking for. That's why I was attracted to Miami. But not everybody necessarily wants that. They're like dead set on being, an endovascular surgeon. And so they want to be in a program that has, amazing enfolded fellowship, and they can do all this specialized training while also getting good training in the other fields, because obviously you still need to do that to be a, good neurosurgeon. But I think intangibles, that's a good question. I think, and fit. It sounds so cliche, but I think that really is true. And Victor can, tell you about this too. The three of us interns here have meshed so well and become really close friends in a very short amount of time. And it's hard to obviously predict that because you can't choose who your co-residents are going to be, but you can tell kind of from the atmosphere and the style of program, the type of applicant that they're looking for, type of resident that they're looking for. And so getting a sense of that as much as you guys can, on the trail this year, albeit is a bit more difficult, I think is probably the other important factor, because again, you're going to spend 7 years of your life with these people and you want them to, be a pleasure to work with.
I agree, Damien. Like, not that it's exactly the same, but I find like, if I was to ask you the question, how do you know if you're on a first date, if you it's going to go well or not? I feel like for a lot of the time when you're on a date, within 5-10 minutes if you like the person and if you're going to vibe with them. And so sometimes you're on the good end, sometimes you're on the bad end. I've been on both. And it's kind of like that when it comes to these sort of rank lists as well. Like you get a sense immediately, your gut instinct, which doesn't really quantify what the intangibles are. But to go on that, are people friendly? Do people welcome you? Like, people remember your name, take you in. Those are the little intangibles that I truly appreciate. The little messages that you send, that they send, the people try to support each other. There was one program where I interviewed at, where for some reason they took all the interviewees to their morning conference in which everyone was being pimped in front of us. And I saw one resident in that program, a senior one, write the answer on a piece of paper and give it to the junior resident that was being pimped. And that's a great example of like a residency program where the seniors are supporting the juniors. Very intangible, but you could tell. Other times, intangibles include, do the residents seem to get along? And that's a hard thing to say, especially because it's all virtual this year. But sometimes the ways to tell if residents get along include, do they publish together? Do they post photos on social media together? Is there anything online where residents have done things more than just by themselves? I think that's another example too of how you can really get a sense of that. But these intangibles are so hard when you can't visit a program or see a program. So if I was to try to be proactive here and say how you could go about still trying to determine these intangibles, it would include just trying to find people in social media, just seeing what they say, trying to find publications, seeing what there's anything available in the public domain gives you some data which you wouldn't otherwise have. And in this cycle in particular, data means everything, I would suspect. If there are some ways you have connections, someone that's a resident, an intern, shoot them a message, ask them about a program. That's definitely another way as well. You can call me and I can name many programs I interviewed at, which I would tell you I would have loved to be at. And so that secondhand stuff is also the intangible. So not meaning to ramble on much more, but intangibles are there. You just need to look for them, use your connections, and just see what else is out there. Now, when it comes to at least the University of Miami program, we're all here available to help you and decide if you're interviewing with us. By all means, please reach out to any of us. If you're not interviewing with us but you would like to know more about the program, reach us to us again. And for those people interested, by all means, we're very open with emails here at this program. And when it comes to rank lists, it's always a very personal thing. We will understand only to a limited degree. We won't understand necessarily your reason why you want to come somewhere or what the rationale or motivation is if it's very personal. But we're very open to help explain to you how we see the process, because Damien knows the same thing. We're on the other side now. It was only a year ago we were in your shoes trying to think, how do we play this game? How do we get people to rank us high, et cetera, with my ranking, and how do I optimize this, optimize that? But end of the day, now we're on the other side. We see what matters more. And there are some things, I'm not going to lie, that I think matter more now. I'm on the other side than I was in your shoes, such as quality of life. That's a big one for me. As interns, we're all getting pushed. Still getting pushed right now. Damien is not even on the video. That's how pushed he's being. And so for me, I've realized, and I'm happy that this is the case, that when I'm not working or not being pushed, that there's something as an outlet. And Miami as a city, as a place, as an area, has outlets everywhere, which I truly enjoy and truly appreciate. And I think is something that you all should think about when it comes to ranking number one, what your program is, number two, what your program is, number three, et cetera, et cetera. The second thing is the people you're with. Damien, Sumet, and I couldn't think of a better group of people to do this with, and just like, whilst the funny thing is I never met them during the trail, but you could tell when you see how residents interact that program has a good vibe. They do get along. And, by us being able to share our stories with you, it's pretty obvious, at least here in Miami, that we have that. We have that sort of camaraderie, and, we'll continue to have that and support that. There's a lot of teaching that goes on between residents, which is something I guess I did not believe, but wasn't too sure of. But a lot of teaching that I've received, Damien's received, and Sumed comes from the residents teachers, whether it's Ian, our chief teaching, helping me close, or Nick, our fellow, trying to help me understand particular dissections, to Vignesh, my two, helping me understand lumbar drains. Like, a lot of teaching that I learn as an intern comes from my senior residents. And so getting a sense of that, I think, is important. How well do they get along? What do other people say about them? Because that's probably the most unbiased way to look at things. Now, rather than me continuing to ramble on, does anyone else have any comments, anything that they're curious to know about, like what we would do, what we would say? By all means, you could put an anecdote in the chat, or you could ask any other questions. How did we rank? What did we rank? You know, like by all means, it's definitely an open forum at this point, right, Damien?
Yeah, no, I mean, this is your time, guys, to ask any questions.
Where are you, Damien, right now? I'm just curious.
I'm in an elevator currently. I'm coming back to 12. I'll see you in a minute. I was just in the central wing elevators, living the dream.
You see, guys, like this is, at least here in Miami, we live the dream, even in the elevators. These are the little things you have to consider, and just like how we get along. Obviously, you see me and Damien have a great rapport, and I think that's important when you look at programs to see what that rapport is. End of the day, I don't think there's any reason to go to a program and not speak to anyone. That defeats the purpose of residency. And so those are the intangibles in my mind. How can you interact with people, what they do. Again, this year, tips include also seeing what they do electronically, social media, on the internet, because you can't visit us, unfortunately, at least this year anyway. What were your top 5 programs when ranking?
Any other questions?
Someone's asking for a top 5 program. I'm going to play this safe and give a very nebulous answer rather than name specific programs. At least within my top 5, Miami was in my top 5. I can say that primarily because I'm here. Other top 5 programs included ones that had more than one a year. I was looking for a program with more than just one resident a year. I thought it was important to have co-residents in my year group. For me personally, I'm not from America, so another thing I was looking forward to was a place in a big city.
Going up.
And then the last thing I would
where are you going?
It's okay. We took it down. We get it.
Had a university affiliation. Those 3 factors were big factors in what programs went into my top 5. Maybe Damien's in an elevator, so he won't have reception. We're not that advanced here yet, so he can answer that when he comes back. Frank DeStefano. Frank is asking, how many programs did he rank? How did you find this was a good number in retrospect? You know, Frank, I'm going to give you an answer that's definitely going to be different to Damien's. I ranked, when I think about it, I think I ranked 14 programs. I ranked 14 programs myself, which as an international may or may not be the type of program number that local students get, but for me, that's what I felt was the best sort of number of programs for me that I wanted to be at. I didn't want to rank programs I actually did not want to be at, and I think that's an important thing to think of as well. To be honest with yourself, you know, would you rank a program you would not actually enjoy being at? And so that's how I did it, and I was happy with it. I knew that, you know, by ranking less programs, which I did, then the interviews I got offered, the chances are less. But again, this goes back to what are the intangibles, what makes you happy, and so that's how I did both those questions. At some point, Damien can answer his.
Yeah.
What was some? How did you help pick your top 5 programs?
I'm just going to go on to yours.
Take it away.
Yeah, so I think that in terms of ranking your top 5, I ended up ranking Miami obviously very highly and got lucky to end up here where I did. And I ranked in my top 5 one of the places I did a sub-I at. The other one I did my sub-I there, and you know, just didn't it didn't make my top 5. I just wasn't as happy. I was just honest with myself and wasn't as happy with. I didn't think I was going to be as happy there at as compared to some of the other places that I ended up interviewing at and spending less time there. And so I think that's something that's valuable as well. You know, as you do a sub-I there, you don't have to love the place. And that's valuable information as well. And then there were just a couple of other programs that just really stood out to me on the trail for various reasons, one of which was actually a smaller program. I was looking for probably something like 3 a year, but this happened to be a 2-a-year program that I just thought got along with the residents really well. The facilities were great. The faculty were all, you know, eager to have residents and train. It was an up and coming program. And so there were a lot of those X factor intangibles that, you know, clicked for me that I was like, wow, I was very impressed and surprised by going into that. So that actually ultimately ended up in my top 5 as well. In terms of how many I ranked, I think I ranked everywhere I interviewed at. And I interviewed at 18 places, I think, in total, 2 of which I interviewed at during my sub-I when I was there, which is about the average. I would say anywhere from like 15 to 20 last year on the trail was about the average in terms of in-person interviews. Obviously, this year it's a little bit different because, you know, the costs of traveling around were eliminated. But I think maybe like 25 or so made last year, like talking to kids on the trail. Maybe a handful of people did that many, but that's a lot to do in person. That's pretty exhausting. You know, and I think at the end of the day, that like 20 is probably kind of the magic number. I think people have quoted, you know, within neurosurgery, if you rank at least like 18 or 15 interviews, your chances of matching are like 90+%. So part of it is if you're able to get that many interviews, you know, chances are you're a pretty solid applicant and someone's going to want you. And so I would say in retrospect, this was a good number to you know, interview at. Obviously I ended up matching. But yeah, I would say that, yeah. And then my second question here, how important was the culture of programs for you guys when ranking, and what culture would you say you have in Miami? So, I mean, culture, as we've talked about, is very important. I think, again, if you're going to spend a chunk of your life with people, you know, over these next 7 years, you want them to be people you get along with and fit your personality. And every program has their own unique culture. And so, you know, I think Miami's culture is one of, you know, pretty solid camaraderie in terms of we all as residents, obviously pre-COVID, unfortunately, COVID has limited things as with everything, but we hung out a lot. We would go to the beach, go to, you know, some of the faculty of boats here that they would take us out on the boats for boat days and, you know, just doing fun stuff outside of the hospital together, which I think is definitely a big intangible that not every program had. There are definitely some programs that do even way more than we do outside of the hospital as a, you know, residency cohort, but I think definitely we're on the upper end of the spectrum in terms of, you know, friendliness and actually not only just being good like coworkers, but also being like, you know, really great friends too outside of the hospital. And importantly, I think our faculty also kind of share that same mentality. You know, some of the faculty are great at, you know, having people over to their house or doing stuff, you know, hosting parties, things like that, that make the residency, you know, and the resident faculty relationship very strong here as well. Did we answer Felix's question yet? Or no?
But it is a website.
Okay. Yeah, and then Felix, I think there's more information on the website as well regarding the Black Lives Matter Fellowship. That's something that's actually relatively new. That was obviously just started this summer. I personally don't know as much about it from like the residency perspective, but I believe it's like a summer research fellowship. It's something that if you're interested in, would definitely look more into and can reach out to the contact info online. It might be Ingrid or Dr. Komatar, program director. But
guys,
Hi, it's Ingrid here. So if you're interested in the Black Lives Matter scholarship fellowship for the summer, go ahead and send me an email with your CV, and dates of availability, and just a, just an overall letter of interest. And the email it's if you go on our Instagram, it's posted there on the on one of the posts, but the email is nrstraining@med.miami.edu.
Perfect. Thank you, Ingrid.
Thank you, guys.
It looks like one last question here. What were some left field questions you were asked on the interview trail, and how did you answer? I fortunately didn't get asked like too many like crazy interview questions. The one that sticks out to me the most was actually pretty early on, and so I had less interview experience and didn't quite know how to answer at the time. But it was the interviewer gave this like long-winded, oh, you're a Major League Baseball player, and you step up to the plate, and then the pitcher throws a fastball and it hits you in the head and you die. And like, it's like very graphic and was like very out of left field. And then he's like, so you die, who would you want to be like reincarnated as, or something like that? It's just a ridiculous question. And I like sat there for like 30 seconds just being like baffled by the question. Obviously that was the intention, because it's such a ridiculous question. And I honestly don't even remember what I answered. Something I don't think that was very like a clever answer, but that was the only one that I really remember, because I remember being like, oh man, I did not have a good answer for that one. I don't know if Victor has any like left field questions that he.
The one thing I'll say is I never got a left field question, but I got a left field activity to do. I walked into the interview room and they had a plank of wood and a nail and a hammer, and they said, bang this nail into the plank of wood. It's probably the most stressful thing I've ever done in my life, because the last thing you want to do is miss, which I heard other people did. I thankfully got it in 4. So yeah, nice. There you go. But nothing, that was a left field activity rather than a question, I suppose.
Yeah, I think one of the most common questions I got was like hobbies. You just be ready to have and talk about something you do for fun outside of the hospital. Every interview, at least once, twice, if not more, got asked about what hobbies you like to do, and sometimes that conversation just evolved from there. And I didn't get any questions about my research or anything. It was just, oh, you like to golf, or oh, you do this, you do that. Like, oh, I like to do that too, and you just start talking about something, and then by that time your 15 minutes is up and you're like, oh, nice, okay, that was a good interview. Didn't get asked any hard questions, so that's something important to keep in mind. All right, well, I think we're going to wrap it up here, guys. Unfortunately, I'm on call tonight, so it's trying to kind of do a couple things at once, but I appreciate you guys tuning in. Victor and I are happy to talk to you, and we'll have see you guys next month with a new topic. Sumed is going to be leading these starting next week as we all kind of switch rotations, and so I know he's looking forward to talking with you guys and hosting the rest of these sessions. So stay tuned for more information. You can always look on our Neurosurgery website. Ingrid's got a bunch of great stuff posted on there as well, including the new Black Lives Matter Fellowship and additional all of our different symposiums we're doing with most of which are run by our faculty as well. So thank you guys again. Take care. Good luck on the rest of the interview trail. Rank list, feel free to reach out to us anytime. We're happy to answer your questions.
Thanks, Ignacio. Thanks, Ingrid.
You're welcome.
Thank you all. Have a good night.